Chaos Zero Nightmare has so many different characters, but what's actually the difference between, say, Amir and Maribell? Well, that's what I'm gonna teach you today. Hello everybody, my name is Hako and welcome into the channel. In this video, I'm gonna give you a breakdown of every single goddamn agent that is in the game. Now, this is the third time in a row I'm recording this video. First time, I don't know what happened, I think I forgot to press the record button. Second time, did it all over again. Then the file got corrupted, so maybe this third time is the charm. Otherwise, I'll see you on the fourth time. Let me also disappear because I'm gonna be blocking vital information. There we go. So, if you want to take a look at all of the characters, you can do so by clicking the hamburger icon and then go into Agent Collection. In here, you'll be able to see all of the agents, the ones that you pulled and the ones that you've yet to pull. If you press this one, we can sort by classes. And I'm gonna go through this class by class. So let's sort by striker, and these are all of the strikers in the game. So strikers are your typical main carry. They do most of the damage and they're kinda selfish. They deal the vast amount of damage, so you better make sure that the teammates, they are made to support the strikers. And if I were to put these in strength order, it would be Mei Lin, she's arguably the strongest character in the game. After that Haru, after that Rin, and then Owen. Owen is the only 4-star character after this one, so it makes sense. So let's first talk about Mei Lin. She's an incredibly powerful character whose bread and butter is to apply Ember on enemies and then break enemies. If we break an enemy's tenacity bar, they go back in turn order, they take more damage, and we get 1 AP. Now what Embers does is that we apply them through different skills from Mei Lin, and when an enemy breaks, they take a bunch of damage. So breaking an enemy, stunning an enemy, whatever you want to call it, is really what Mei Lin is all about. Now she applies Embers for damage, but in order to break the enemy, she imparts Passion Weakness on them. And whenever you attack an enemy with an element that they are weak to, you will do more damage and you will do more tenacity damage. So basically the enemy becomes easier to break. Now Mei Lin, she's a punchy kung fu girl, she has a lot of sheep attacks, and she has a lot of cards that like incentivizes you playing a bunch of cards in a row. Spirit of Armata makes it so every time you play a card, you gain 20% damage for 1 turn. Unity of Attack and Defense, draw 2 basic cards, and the cost of those cards -1. Her ultimate is called Heavenly Flame Dragon, and it makes it so your next 4 basic attacks, they hit 1 additional time. So Mei Lin, incredibly potent, incredibly busted, and she pairs best with other characters that can help her break enemies, and the standout one of doing that is Khalipe and also Selena. Now let's talk about Ray. Ray is fucking awesome looking and she also plays very interesting. If we take a little bit of a look at her cards, you will see that most of them will have a flavor text called Dark Mist Blade Art. And this extra part of the card gets activated if she's in her special Dark Cloud stance. So if you're in this stance, her cards gets buffed significantly, but also important to note, if another combatant's attack card is used, she automatically exits the stance. So what you want to be doing with Rin is like pairing her up with other teammates that doesn't necessarily use too many attack cards in a bad timing to like haphazardly force her out of this state. Dark Mist Secret Art Annihilation, if she's in her stance, double damage. One of her strongest attacks, Dark Mist Secret Art Black Dance. If you're in the Dark Cloud stance, she will do this attack up to 5 extra times, depending on how many skill cards you have in the hand. Her ultimate is a big nuke that applies vulnerable to an enemy. So Rin is a very potent main carry that is all about being in her stance before she does her cards. And Rin works exceptionally well with characters that can buff her own damage and that can also fill up her hand with skill cards. Now let's talk about Haru. She's the first limited character of the game, and she has a very unique playstyle that is all about Anchor Shot. Anchor Shot is a hard-hitting ability that deals an increasing amount of damage every time we use it. So the gameplay loop of Haru, use Anchor Shot, get Anchor Shot back in whatever way we can. One of the best ways to do it is through her own skill, Anchor Pointer. From the draw pile or graveyard, move Anchor Shot back to your hand. So for example, a superb turn is Anchor Shot, Anchor Pointer, and Anchor Shot again if we have 4 AP total. Haru also has some really good epiphanies, and a lot of her cards is just about making Anchor Shot even more dangerous. Haru excels with teammates that can help her get back her Anchor Shot, Cassius is exceptionally good at doing this. Now let's talk about a free-to-play powerhouse that is Owen. Everybody gets one Owen after the tutorial, and he's not a bad character at all. Owen is kind of a jack of all trades, master of none. His kind of bread and butter is using Wind Charge together with other hard-hitting attacks. Wind Charge makes your next attack card hit another time. So using Wind Charge together with the Wind Slash or Gale Strike is a very good combo. Wind Charge can also be used in a supportive fashion with other characters' attack card. So say that you have an ultra strong carry, you can use Owen as a support to that carry by using Wind Charge to power them up. Wind Riding is another really good spell of Owen, and it moves Wind Charge back to your hand. Owen can also break armor and apply vulnerable to an enemy. Now let's talk about my favorite class, which is Vanguard. And my absolute favorite character in the game, I've not gotten her yet, but it is Khalipe, and she is the strongest Vanguard. If I were to rank them, I would rank them like this, with Amir coming in last. Although Amir is fucking cracked, and we'll get to that. Now, I cannot overstate how cracked Khalipe is. She was even more cracked in the beta, but even nerfed, she is such a force to be reckoned with. Khalipe has everything. She has so much shields, she has defense-based damage, she has AoE, she has buffing, she has tenacity damage. She is the perfect unit. And Khalipe's big thing is her Vulture Ejection. It deals defense-based damage on the entire enemy team, gives you 80% shield, and also gives you Silver Veil, a resource unique to Khalipe. If Silver Veil is at 3, 400% defense-based damage to all enemies. So this is a ticking nuke. Once you reach 3, you will basically kill the enemy team. And now Vulture Ejection costs 3, which we're never meant to be like actually playing this one, manually spending AP. Instead, this is a Celestial card. When using a card with a cost of 2 or higher, this card activates. So for example, Khalipe can automatically use this card if she plays Overpower, or Upward Slash, or if any other teammate plays their 2-cost card while you have Vulture Ejection in your hand. Great Soda Killa is also here to really buff up the ejection. Overpower is here to deal tenacity damage. Rally gives you card draw. Rally gives you shield and card draw, and Absolute Protection allows you to retain your entire hand. For the ultimate, she deals 300% defense-based damage to all enemies and also creates 1 Vulture Ejection. Khalipe is absolutely fucking broken. There is no team where she's a bad fit. She's always the perfect third character for any team. She deals enough damage to be a main carry, and she excels in teams where her tenacity damage can really shine, so with a Mei Lin team. And as for best teammates, you can also put a Cassius together with her, so you can like manually search for her Vulture Ejections. Her epiphanies are also really good. Now let's talk about a character that I actually do have, and I'd probably say that she is my favorite one, Magna. Now, Magna is my absolute favorite kind of tank. She's the counter-attacking kind. All of her cards, they give her shield, and most of them also gives counterattack. What counterattack is that Magna will retaliate whenever an enemy attacks the team. The damage gets increased if the shield can absorb all of the damage without breaking. Magna also has access to powerful debuffs. Now the concept of Magna is simple. She wants to punch things that punches her. And really her bread and butter is stacking her counterattack. Storm of the Bitter Cold is one of her best cards, and it gives her 1 counterattack whenever she gains shield from any abilities. Ice Wall is extremely useful because it allows her counterattack to apply to all enemies, not just the one that's attacking her. And as someone that uses main carry Magna, she is scary freaking strong. Glacial Iron Fist will give you a shield depending on how much damage it does. Her ultimate is a big nuke that also deals 20% more damage for every counterattack. Now after that, let's talk about one of Magna's absolutely best teammates, which is Amir. Now Amir ends up in the bottom of a lot of tier lists, and I would honestly object. She is absolutely freaking crazy if you pair her together with another Vanguard character. And the reason why she is so insane is because the Metalize. What Metalize does is that when gaining shield via an ability, deal defense-based damage 80% to a random enemy. So if you pair her up with Magna, for example, or Khalipe, you will have an Amir that deals a silly amount of damage. She is also the queen when it comes to damage reduction. And I'll admit, Amir is a little bit lackluster if you pair her up with just normal agents, but if you run her with other agents that also likes to apply shields, she becomes absolutely an insane unit. Full Metal Hurricane allows her Metalize to target the entire enemy team. You pair this up with Magna's cards that also allows her to counterattack on the entire enemy team, and you'll have so many crazy fights. Amir's Iron Skin is one of the absolutely best skills in the game. For one turn, minus 40% damage taken, and if you have free Metalize, it will also consume them and give you minus 20% damage taken for each consumed. So if it's consumed free, you will have a full immunity to damage for one turn. So no matter how hard hitting the attack that's coming is, you will take no damage if Iron Skin is fully stacked up and active. This has saved me so many goddamn times. Amir's ultimate is also very interesting and it plays with her Metalize. So Magna is a free unit, we all got her as a pre-registration bonus, and I would say do not sleep on her. Alright, let's talk about the last Vanguard unit, which is Maribell. Maribell is what I would describe as a budget Magna. Now she's an incredibly good unit, but she does the exact things Magna does, just slightly worse. So she's also a shielding, counter-attacking tank that also has cards that transforms damage done into shield. Probably her most unique thing is her Shelter Strike that deals damage based on how much shield you do have. Maribell's ult is a big shield, super simple. And Vanguards are really like your perfect third slot in any team. They add so much flexibility and survivability to any team. Now let's talk about Rangers. Rangers are extremely potent and interesting characters that deals with extra damage attacks. And if I were to rank them by strength, I'd rank them something like this. Veronica is extremely strong, she also has a hamster on top of her head. And Veronica's entire kit is about creating ballistas. Her firing preparation allows her to create a ballista at the start of every turn. A ballista is a special card that you manually cannot play, instead it will automatically play at the end of your turn. The ballista damage is classed as an extra attack damage, and that is something that almost all Rangers play with. She also has excellent card draw, and she has a special buff called Reload. For every stack of Reload, you gain 50% more ballista damage. And let's have a little bit of a look at the ballistas. So certain cards, certain epiphanies will change what kind of ballista cards you are making. The original one is simple, 150 damage to a random enemy. The Giant Ballista is one of my favorites, and instead of being single target, it deals 120% damage to all enemies. Sir Kowalski, which is the little hamster, he will buff up a ballista card you have in hand. Bombardment Prep will allow you to stack Reload one more time. And Rapid Fire, which is her basic card, will have a chance to create more ballistas. Veronica's ultimate is a big nuke on the entire enemy team, and it also maxes out the Reload. So Veronica is your perfect sub DPS. She doesn't require much AP. A lot of her cards they will play themselves, and she's super strong. Certain units like Nia buffs extra damage specifically, which makes her a very good teammate. Ray is another fantastic teammate for Veronica. And Veronica is extremely versatile. She can fit either as a main carry or as a sub carry to most teams. Now let's talk about Hugo, the household furry. Now Hugo is interesting. He also deals with a lot of fast ship damage, and most of his attacks classes as extra damage. Hugo's bread and butter is called Hunt Commence. Whenever you gain one Hunt Commence, you will enter into the Hunt state. When Hugo is in the Hunt state, whenever a teammate or Hugo himself does an attack on an enemy, he will follow up with an extra Hunt attack. And Hunting Instincts, which is one of his best cards, makes it so whenever another combatant uses upgrade or skill card, he gains one Hunt Commence. Now we can also gain Hunt Commands through his other cards, like Fan of Daggers, which gives him 1 for every enemy hit, and Dingo Howling, which gives shield and also 2 Hunt Commands. Fixer's Approach increases extra attack damage of Hunt Commands by 40%. His ultimate is an additional nuke and also increases commands to hunt damage by 30%. So Hugo is the hardest hitting follow-up character that we have. Make an attack with the character and Hugo will come and follow up and also attack that character. Hugo is extremely strong and extremely potent, and in a similar fashion pairs up with kinda the same units as Veronica. Veronica and Hugo can also be paired up to very great results. And anything that buffs extra attack damage or buffs one attack card specifically is especially good for Hugo. Now, let's talk about Selena. I'd call her like the most honorary 5-star that we have in the game. She's a 4-star, but she is extremely good and could pass as a 5-star. Now, the other Rangers, they are kind of sub-DPSs or main DPSs. Selena, she's more of a debuffer and an enabler and a breaker. High Power Scope applies a Mark. Mark is one of the best debuffs in the game. It increases the amount of damage an attack does by so goddamn much. She can also apply Passion Weakness, and she also does Tenacity damage. This is the best in slot teammate for Mei Lin, and when it comes to Tenacity damage, nobody has her beat. And Selena is just one of those fantastic characters that can fit into any team as a buffer, a debuffer, an enabler, and no team doesn't want her on it. Her ultimate is a big nuke, and it also applies free mark on an enemy. So this is basically, you use this and then you just burn the enemy down with whatever skills you have. Now let's talk about Beryl. Beryl is the only character that I managed to max out, not intentionally of course, but here we are. Beryl is more of a main carry more than any of the other Rangers, I would say. And her bread and butter is either opening found and charge shot. And she's the first kind of retain character that we're going to be talking about. And if you retain something, it means that you keep it on your hand for like another turn, and it doesn't go away if you end your turn and still haven't played the card. Whenever you let it sit in your hand, it gains some buffs. So Beryl is all about holding fire, literally, and then unleashing it all when the time is right. Guilty Pleasure is one of the best card draws in the game. And unlimited firepower can be used to very good extent with opening found and charge shot. Heavy Weapons Specialist is absolutely amazing. It allows you to create either opening found or charge shot, and that costs 1 less. So opening found becomes free and charge shot becomes a 1 cost. Her ultimate is a big nuke on all enemies. So Beryl really shines with a character called Orlea that also works with retaining cards. Beryl is an extremely free-to-play accessible potent carry, and like I said, Beryl is more of a main star of a show. Meanwhile, the other Rangers are more in the sub-DPS category. Now let's talk about Hunters. Strength-wise, it would look something like this. What all the Hunters have in common is that they all have guns and they all use something called bullets. Renoa is a very strong character and we all get to play her in the tutorial. Her bread and butter is all about creating dirge bullets and then expending or discarding those dirge bullets. A dirge bullet is a card that we can play for 1 AP, but what you should do is you should look for ways to discard the card, because it will do half the damage, but other cards correlate like how many dirge bullets we have discarded. So a potent combo, for example, is Echo of Sorrow, creates 1 bullet, Flower of the Wild Fate, create more bullets, and then Ballad of Pitch Black, damage based on how many bullets we have, and then we finish off with Last Ditch Assault, which discards all dirge bullets, and for every bullet discarded, plus 50% more damage. This is so goddamn strong, and it's really fun. And their ultimate is nothing but crazy. Move all dirge bullets from draw pile and graveyard to hand. So Renoa is all about juggling the dirge bullets. Create them, then discard them and reap the benefits. Her best teammates are characters that helps her find her best cards and also that buffs 1 cost cards, like Ray or Cassius. Now let's talk about Luke. Luke works in a similar fashion, although his bullets are called handgun bullets. One of them, a good way to generate them is through rapid fire. For every crit, you will create a handgun bullet. The bullets, they do different things and they are 0 cost cards. A lot of his cards will create bullets, and a lot of his other cards will get additional effects depending on how many bullets that you've used this round. One of his biggest attacks is Finisher Round. This one is locked until you've used 5 handgun bullet cards. Now what Luke is very good at is filling up your hand with a bunch of bullets, and his ultimate deals increased amount of damage the more cards you have in your hand. Same as Renoa, Luke pairs well with other characters that buffs 1 cost cards, or that simply wants a lot of cheap attacks happening in the same round. Now let's talk about Lucas. Lucas is maybe the most chaotic one of the Hunter bunch. Just as the classmates, he also works off his own special bullets. Extended Magazine allows you to craft a bullet at the start of every turn. These bullets also have different things that they do, different things that they are good at. weaken to all enemies, impair to all enemies, action count to all enemies, agony to all enemies, or extra damage to shields. His other attacks are all about like buffing up his bullet damage. He has some card draw, he has some card discard, he has some weaken, and he's really good at AoE damage. One of his big cards is RPG 7. When bullet cards are exhausted, 50% fixed damage. And Lucas' ultimate is one of the biggest and strongest card draws in the game. It is also a big nuke on all enemies. Lucas, same as other ones, he kinda pairs well with other characters that buffs one-cost cards, or that incentivizes doing a lot of different attacks. He works best as a main DPS or sub-DPS. Now let's talk about Psionics. These characters are among the most unique ones the game has to offer. First off, we have Kayron. Kayron is super freaking strong and very, very unique. If we look at his cards, we will see that almost all of his cards, they will create one futility card. What the futility card is a useless card basically that exhausts when we use it, and it costs 1 to play. So why do we want to create these cards? Well, Kayron's other cards, they correlate to how many futility cards that we have exhausted. And we don't actually want to be playing the futility cards ourselves, instead we're looking for other ways to exhaust the cards without spending AP. Most of that stuff is hidden away in epiphanies, so middle one creates ephemeral, which automatically exhausts it at the end of the turn if it is in our hand. Kayron's ultimate will also exhaust all futility cards in hand. Brand of Annihilation, which is one of the strongest AoE attacks in the game, becomes free if you manage to exhaust 3 cards during that turn. Black Holes deals 40% damage for each exhausted futility. Oath of Vanity is very interesting. It makes it so when we create futility, the card becomes a lot better than it initially is. It adds on 80% damage and also 80% heal. It's one of the only life-stealing cards in the game. One of his best attacks is Echoes of True Abyss, a lot of damage, and it will also create 5 futility cards. Now Kayron takes a little bit of a while to get going, but once you have some epiphanies and the exhausting of the futility gets going, he is one of the absolute strongest characters in the game. And he pairs exceptionally well with other characters that can help him exhaust cards. He's also very good to pair up together with buffers like Ray, because he hits like a freaking truck, and if we can give him buffs, he hits even harder. Now let's talk about another free-to-play accessible powerhouse, which is Tressa. Tressa is absolutely phenomenal. Do not sleep on her just because of the fact that she is given away for free. Now Tressa is a poison unit. Well, they call it agony in this. Her first potential is kinda important because it adds on 2 agony to her normal dagger throw. Tressa is all about creating shadow daggers, throwing them at the enemy and stacking up agony. For every stack of agony, the enemy takes damage at the start of their turn, and this really adds up. A lot of Tressa's best cards are given through epiphanies, but some of the really good ones is Curse, Shadow Reload, Vital Attack, and Cursed Gouge. Cursed Gouge is exceptionally good. It weakens the enemy, and it also applies something called Agony Imprint, which makes so when agony is gained, gain an additional agony too. Incredibly powerful to like stacking up the agony. Now Tressa will create a bunch of shadow daggers with a lot of her skills, so pairing her up with agents that wants attacks to happen frequently or that buffs 1-cost or 0-cost cards is exceptionally valuable. Her ultimate will create 2 shadow daggers. And Tressa is an incredibly powerful unit. Do not underestimate her if you haven't managed to pull stronger DPSs. Now let's talk about the last one. Let's talk about controllers, and they are kinda the weird class. And some of them are extremely strong. I'd put the strength level at Mika, Ray, Cassius, Nia, and Orlea. Debatable if Orlea should be ahead of Nia or not. Let's talk about Mika first. Another free-to-play powerhouse, and she's kind of the equivalent of Bennett if you're used to Genshin Impact. What's so good with Mika is that she's your designated healer that fits into exactly every team. One of her best cards is Source of Water, which gives you a big heal, and it also importantly gives you 1 AP. AP is the absolutely most important resource in this game, and Mika basically needing none of it but giving so much of it back is a game changer. There's other ways to also give AP to the team. One of them is Deluge. Deluge makes it so at the beginning of every turn you gain 1 wave. Once you have 3 waves, you will gain an action point. Mika is incredible, and in some really AP-hungry constellations, she's almost needed. And if you want to use Mika, I would recommend as soon as possible removing Water Arrow and removing Whirlpool in the deck. She's here to heal and give AP, not use it for her own attacks. And as for what team Mika fits in, well, she fits into every team. I'm not kidding, every Gundam team wants a Mika. Her Ego 1 is exceptionally good because it makes her start with Deluge. Now let's talk about Rei. You might have seen her getting squished in the first few minutes of the game, but do not underestimate her just because of that. Rei is your absolutely busted support. She has so many different buffs, and she also does a good amount of damage herself. Strike of Darkness has a chance to be completely free, and for 1 turn, 100% basic attack card damage. This is a game changer for Mei Lin, for example. Resonate in Darkness, 40% damage of cards with a cost of 1. This is incredible. We've gone through a lot of characters that work entirely off of 1-cost cards, so this paired up with that is absolutely insane. So Tressa and Rei, for example, together with Mika, is one of the strongest free-to-play accessible teams in the game. Snack Time is an incredibly valuable card. It costs nothing, you get to exhaust a selected card, you get to heal, and you also get to draw one. Dark Condensation makes it so you can pick any attack card in the hand and increase the damage by 100% for 1 turn. This is such a good card for like the heavy-hitting cards in the game. And if that wasn't enough, we also have Predator's Blade, which deals a silly amount of damage, and for 1 turn gain 4 morale. Every morale is 20% damage, so it's an 80% damage boost. I'm telling you, Rei is stupid strong. And if that wasn't enough, her ultimate gives you 400% damage, and it gives you 1 AP. If you haven't started already, build Rei. Just build her, she's amazing. Now let's talk about the weirdest character in the game, Cassius. Now he's also voiced by Sayel Apuro from Bleach, which makes me like him slightly more. He has some of the craziest cards in the game, and let's start with Pop-Eyed Popper. Start a random 1 out of 4 quests. So these are the quests that will be chosen at random, and once you fulfill them, you will get a corresponding card. Full House. When each combatant uses a card, create Full House. Full House is a 0-cost draw 1 card. So just card draw, amazing. Quest 000. When using 3 cards which cost 0, create 000. 000 says 40% damage equal to the number of attack cards used this turn. If you pair this up together with Tressa, you will have some amazing, insane synergy. With some epiphanies, Tressa can shoot out like 8 shadow daggers for free, then 000 will hit like a freaking ultimate. Now Cassius also has damage, he has card draw, he can discard your entire hand and draw that many cards. He has a hard-hitting attack called Dice Trick that gets cheaper for every quest you've completed. And for the big one, we have Joker. Select 1 card from the draw pile or discard pile, move it to hand. This is so incredibly valuable, I cannot even begin to explain it. Many characters, they would be one-trick ponies where they have that one amazing card. Once they've used that, well, you need to shuffle the entire deck and like find it again. With Joker, you can use it, then immediately pick it back up. Joker is so incredibly good, it is absolutely silly. As for Cassius' ultimate, he will create 2 quest cards. And for 1 turn, he will take away 3 morale from all enemies. Now this is huge because each morale is 20% damage, so he will nerf the enemy's damage by 60%. Now, as you can probably tell, Cassius is ludicrously strong. He works in so many freaking teams, and he is such a universal unit. There is not a single team constellation where Cassius is a bad pick, and all of his buffs and all of his cards, like, they bring something to the table to every single team. Cassius is one of the best 4-star units in the game. Now, let's talk about Nia. Nia is a rockstar chick, and she also works really cool. She has a special resource called Decibel. Decibel does extra damage whenever a shuffle occurs. All allies will perform extra attack on a random enemy, and also for every stack, 50% extra attack damage per decibel. Max stacking up to 5. So, decibel stacking, a lot of discarding. We have some healing and we also have some deck digging. Nia's Curiosity is extremely good if you want to find that specific one card. You get to reveal 3 cards and then you get to pick one and discard the rest. Nia works exceptionally well in a team that wants to discard the cards or that does a lot of extra attack damage like a Veronica or Hugo team. Nia is a little bit of a niche unit, but in the niche that she's meant to be in, she's absolutely crazy. As for her ultimate, it is very cool. It's a big nuke to all enemies. It gives you 3 decibels, and it will also discard all cards from the draw pile, which means that you will shuffle the deck. Remember, decibel does a lot of stuff when you shuffle the deck. Now, as for the last character, let's talk about Orlea. Orlea is the hot nun, and she works very uniquely. She's all about creating her own little slime minions. One of the best ways to do this is with Sacred Sensor. So, whenever you do a creation card, you will create a random slime out of these 3. Either Softy, Swifty, or Tuffy. Now, you'll also see that they have different things that they do, and they all want to be retained in the hand. If you manage to get 2 1-star Tuffies, well, that becomes 1 2-star Tuffy. 2 2-star Tuffies becomes a 3-star Tuffy. So Orlea is a weird and unique and interesting character. She has some healing, she has some damaging, and it's all correlated, and she's all about just monster hoarding up her slimes. She's also the only character in the game that can trigger the retain effect, just on command. She fills up your hand pretty easily with slimes, so she has cards that deal more damage the more cards you have. But most cards correlate to the slimes, they will create slimes, and as you can see, they are vastly different when they are 3-star compared to their 1-star. One of her big cards is Will of Light. It's a big heal, and also when you activate it, you will activate the retain effect of all cards in hand, which makes her pair excellently with Beryl that also wants to retain her cards. For her ultimate, she creates 1 of each creation at a 2-star. So, Orlea is considered to be a little bit of a weak character, but there are some constellations where she really shines, and one of them is with Beryl. She might not be the strongest in the game, but damn me if she's not one of the most unique ones. Alright everybody, that was all of the characters in Chaos Zero Nightmare. For me, 3 times in a row. Hopefully, when I press the end recording button, everything will work this time. I hope I did an okay job of explaining all of the characters with enough depth that we could still have a good pace of the video. Now, if you have any additional questions regarding any of these characters, feel super free to slap it in the comment, and also if you have any additional information that you feel like I missed when talking about someone, please also feel super free to slap that in a comment. If you want to talk to other players that also enjoys this game, pop into the Discord, link in the description. I've now added a Chaos Zero Nightmare channel. And if you enjoyed the video, feel super free to leave a thumbs up. And if you want more Chaos Zero content and gacha content in general, consider subscribing to the channel. Now I'm gonna thank you so much for watching. As always, have a big hug, and I'm gonna go rest my jaw and just hope that I don't have to do this a 4th time. And stay tuned for more videos. Until next time, Hako out.